Welcome to the Single Mom Glow Up, the podcast where we're spilling all the tea on single motherhood, self care, and dating. I'm Bree Bree, your host and fellow single mom navigating life, love, and everything in between. Wherever you are on your single mom journey, this is the place where you will find real stories, honest advice, and a community that just gets it. So, buckle up if you're driving, and if you're chilling, grab your favorite drink, and if you are like cleaning or something, I'm just honored to be your cleaning vibe. Let's dive in.
Y'all, there is an endemic lack of self love in the world, let me tell you. I see it everywhere. Conditional, surface level, influencer friendly self love. The ways I used to claim I loved myself and had to peel back layer after layer of what I thought was self love, but it was really just conditional and superficial self control. I'm gonna let that marinate for a second. It wasn't self love, it was self control. And I think those of you who have been in relationships with highly controlling individuals understand exactly the difference that I'm talking about. It was a lot of self gaslighting, if I may. And so here's what it looked like for me: reciting affirmations, making myself look and feel pretty, correcting my inner dialogue to be less mean and more kind to myself, going to therapy and acupuncture, setting boundaries with people who were unloving or toxically loving towards me because their self love is absolutely messed up too, consuming as much self help info as possible, eating healthy, and exercising. And so you're probably thinking, Brie Brie, are these not self? These are self love. And you're right. They are part of self love, but there's some big stuff missing. Setting in. Okay. All right. Okay, Miss Sage. If you are binging, well, I don't think binging is the right word. If you just listened to my last episode, I'm recording this episode now because I have the time and the energy to do so. I'm noticing. Okay. Buckle up for a tangent. So I've been working in a bakery. I think I said that a few episodes ago, but I'm working in a bakery and I love it. It's the best. I love it so much. But because of the tism, I struggle with transitions. So the way that I've been working, I usually only get like one day off at a time. I don't get like a weekend kind of deal where it's like, okay, I work 5 days and then I'm off 2 days, or work 4 days, off 2 days, work three, whatever. I usually only have one day. And so that is my like, usually I need a day to just transition. Like, I will use that day to do laundry and just catch up on things that I couldn't get done because of my work hours or whatever, and to, get my hair done or go to acupuncture or go to therapy, right? And like literally, like for me, Mondays, I always get Mondays off. That's my therapy day. But the other 2 days are kind of like, although Saturday is also becoming a staple. So that's great for my little autistic heart. But um I say all that to say, when I only get one day off, it's hard to transition from bakery Brie Brie to podcast Brie Brie. So it's like, I don't really get to do that. But this week I actually have 3 days off in a row, and so I have the energy. I've transitioned. I already started, and if you know anything about the TISM or even ADHD as well, like once you start something and you have the momentum going, you can go with it. You can like essentially go longer than a neurotypical person can doing something. And so that's what I'm doing. So Sage, the dog, sorry, I had to make eye contact with her when I said that, is very much still in her drama, why aren't you paying attention me mode, like she was in the last episode. So if you hear her, nothing has changed since what is last week to you, but is 30 minutes ago to me. It's allergy season here, and I live somewhere that has the worst allergies probably in the United States of America. Therefore, I'm sorry for coughing in your ear. Alas, oh, I remembered. Okay, so if you listen last week, if you listen to last week's episode, there was something that I forgot at the end that I was going to share. Oh my gosh, am I forgetting it now? Or nor. Have I forgotten? Wow. That's embarrassing, y'all. Let me just get back into this. Wait, did I finish my tangent? I don't know. I probably didn't. Sage distracted me. Oh, that almost made me remember. Anyway, I'm just gonna get back into the. Oh gosh, this is what it's like living inside of my mind. It is chaos in here. I was gonna say organized chaos, but it's not. It's not organized. It's just chaos. It's slightly predictable chaos to me by now, but like it is woo. But that's how God made me. So, I love it. And that's actually getting into my next point, which those things that I listed are part of self love, but there are some big things missing. One of those things is setting internal boundaries with the different self sabotaging parts of yourself. Right. So, hmm, 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 hmm. Setting internal boundaries with different self sabotaging parts of yourself, but also giving those parts a voice and an outlet, right? It's a balancing act. You don't want to fully silence certain parts of yourself. Maybe you want to fully silence them from, being seen by other people, right? Depending on what you're dealing with, right? There are certain sides of me that either no one has seen or they've only caught glimpses of. Like, going in that lane of, I cannot believe I forgot. I remembered it and then I forgot. But going in that lane of like the tism, since that's what, it's on full display right now. There's like when I get happy, I get the happy flappies. Or like I have to move in a very specific way. But I literally learned to suppress happiness because that was unacceptable. Like to me, it was unacceptable to move that way. For me, if I saw someone else do it, I'd be like, "Oh, that's cute." But like for me, to me, it was unacceptable. So, well, that's not the best example of the setting internal boundaries. That's more of a better example of my next point, which is learning to love the parts of yourself you were taught to hate or suppress. That's that. But an example of setting internal boundaries with different self-sabotaging parts of yourself, I'm talking about like, what is a self-sabotage? Okay, so let's say you're dating someone and you're about to crash out because it's been 16 hours and you asked a basic question about like whether or not he's seeing other people and he hasn't responded, right? 16 hours. No response. Yes or no. But he's active on everything else and has read your message. You about to crash out, right? Self-love would be setting an internal boundary not to crash out. Even though the crash out is valid. The feeling of wanting to crash out is so valid. It's so valid. I'm not sitting here saying, you crazy, you shouldn't crash out. No, it's valid, baby. It's so valid. But you know that if you were to crash out, that you would feel terrible after. And if that's not how you feel and you want to crash out and it will make you feel better, it'll make you feel good, you feel like that's loving to yourself, then do it. Crash the heck out. But I know for myself, in most situations, after I crash out, I feel terrible. And so the self-loving thing to do is to set an internal boundary not to crash out. To say, hey, if this person has me feeling like I'm going to crash out, this is what I'm going to do. Like having a plan for that. After several, it's hard in the moment to know what to do. So if you have a plan, like if someone makes me feel like I'm going to crash out and it's in a way that I know that me crashing out is just going to make me feel worse after, here's how I'm going to handle that. Right? Whether it's I'm just not going to talk to this person for X amount of days. Give me time to cool off. And like know what your cool off time is. Because for me, I used to think that I didn't have a cool off time. But with certain stuff, especially anxious attachment stuff, my cool off time is about 3 days, which is a long cool off time. And then that whole 3 days, I'm like, anytime I think about it, it takes every ounce of willpower I have not to crash out. It's not easy. And I used to what's the word? I used to fold, I used to falter because 3 days of that is torture. But one time I was like, I'm going to see this through until the feeling goes away. It took 3 days. So learning all those things about yourself, right? And that's a piece of self-love that I think a lot of people don't talk about, is learning yourself. Not just the good things. The good things are important. You should learn what you love. You should learn what you like. You should learn what makes your heart happy. You should learn your glimmers. You should learn all of those things. And you also should learn and get really honest with yourself about the quote unquote ugly things, the painful things, the uncomfortable things, the things that you avoid, the things that make you feel unsafe about yourself. That's self-love. Okay. Treating yourself the way, oh, that was a weird transition. I'm moving on to the next item. Treating yourself the way you treat the people you love most, which is a lot easier said than done. And if you have like a really strong codependency habit, treating yourself the way that you would treat your latest obsession. I know I said it. You can't see my face, but there's a look on it. I said it. Treat yourself the way you would treat your latest obsession. Stop pouring all your beautiful love energy into somebody who doesn't even know your middle name or care to know it. Bruh. Another form of self-love, tough self-love, is having really hard conversations with others, being vulnerable with others, risking getting hurt with others, by others, and having your own back regardless. I think so many people, I see it so much. I see it so much, and I get it. And I think this is partly responsible for why the dating pool having pee in it from both sides, when you ask anyone, both sides, all sides, is that we do not love ourselves deeply enough to consciously have hard conversations with others, to be vulnerable with others, to risk getting hurt by others, because we are afraid of not having our own back in the end. And I think if people knew how to have their own back, right? Like maybe you have a friend who, like I have a friend, if you're listening, actually I have a few friends, but there's one in particular that like I reach out to these things about the most. So if you're listening, do I expose your name? I'll expose your name. Sorry. If you're listening, Zaina, thank you for listening. But you know, Zaina has my back when you know what? I'm gonna expose your name because I want to have you on here anyway. But Zaina has my back whenever I'm about to crash out, or you know, if I've had a crash out and then I'm like, oh, I feel terrible, and you know, she helps me put myself back together. But it's important, and it's nice if you have someone like that, right? But that's not their responsibility. You also have to have your own back. What happens if your friend is not available and you don't have other friends available? What if no one's available? What if everyone is crashing out at the same exact time? What if everyone, no, let me not go there. Sorry. It's kind of morbid up in here being my brain. But, you know, what if they're just not available? Right? You can deeply benefit from learning how to have your own back, from learning how to, is going to sound silly, I guess, self-regulate, yes, but I feel like there's self-regulation. This is going to sound so weird, especially if you've been exposed to these terms in before. But co-regulation is when you regulate with another person, usually is how it's used, but it can also be another living being. So like a pet, you can co-regulate with a tree, or like nature, or even plants. It's been shown that if you, I think I've said this in a previous episode, if you look at plants, or
Okay, but before we get into the good stuff, you must hear about my free Discord server, the Single Mom Sanctuary. You remember AIM? Discord is like that, and the Single Mom Sanctuary is a curated chat room full of single moms like you. No ads, no overstimulating, brain rotting, doom scrolling content where every 2 seconds someone's trying to sell you something. Okay? Just actual virtual connection with a community of single moms. Make it even better and join us. The link is in the description. So I will see you there. All right, back to the good stuff.
oh, I said that on someone else's podcast. Shout out Align with Anna. I'd direct you to my Instagram to find it, but I deactivated my Instagram. So if you look at a plant, like our brains are wired to, for the nervous system to kind of like calm if you like look at a plant. I don't know, I didn't get that directly from a study. I got that from someone else who got it directly from a study in a course that I was taking about grounding the nervous system. So take that as you care to. But where was I? Yeah, so it's really important to learn how to self-regulate, or I think of it, and maybe this is a little bit delulu, crazy, unhinged, woo-woo, wild woman of me, but I like to think of it as co-regulating with myself. because I really do have an internal, it's like, oh gosh, I'm gonna sound crazy. You know what? I am crazy. I have an internal conversation. It's like a round table sometimes, depending on how many parts are like at odds. But realistically, we all have parts. I'm not going to get into it too much because we're already at like almost 20 minutes, but everyone has parts. The same way that people with dissociative identity disorder, um, or as most people know it, but it's not really called that anymore, multiple personality disorder, we all have parts. It's just people with dissociative identity disorder, their parts separate so much and like dissociate from each other that they, you can see the distinct personalities coming out. But we all have those inner splits. They're just still connected and still grounded enough that, they stay inside. And most people, like, it takes work and introspection to kind of like tease them out a bit. So I hope I explained that well, because I feel like if I didn't, I don't know, might have somebody reeling. I hope not. It's really not that serious. If you want to look it up more, look into internal family systems, parts work, Google those things. Okay. So, but co-regulating with yourself. And so having that internal conversation, having that, like, sometimes I'll literally envision a more grounded part of myself soothing the part of me that's like wanting to crash out or whatever, in that example. It's helping the part of me that is feeling emotionally dysregulated. Because for me, self-regulation feels unattainable in certain moments. Like, I need the co-regulation. And if I don't have that, right? Because I also don't, like, I don't reach out to my friends for every single little thing because I don't know, like, I don't know, like, they've got lives and stuff like, I don't, it's not like I'm bothering them. I don't think I'm bothering them, but I don't know, sometimes I'm like, I want to handle this myself because I can. And there was a time where I couldn't. So now that I can, I'm gonna do it. Anyway, that was a long tangent. So co-regulating with yourself is a super, I feel like if everyone knew how to co-regulate with themselves, or just like self-regulate, I guess is what I should say, but like, I'm gonna do it my way. Um Sorry, my cousin just texted me. She also is one of the people I reach out to, and she be having my back. But she got 3 kids and works full time, and it's like, sometimes my people just aren't ready or aren't able to respond for whatever they got going on. I'm like, that's fine, because sometimes I can't respond either, and that's just life, but I gotta figure out how to do it myself. But not in a toxic way either. Like, oh, I can't rely on anyone. I have to do it. No, that's not what I'm saying. It's just a really good skill to have. And I think if everyone had it, the dating pool would not have pee in it. Everyone could just self regulate and be more open to, all right, I am doing this thing. My feelings are probably going to get hurt at least once, but that doesn't scare me because I know how to take care of myself when my feelings are hurt. Wouldn't it just be so much nicer? Like, be honest. Be for real right now. if someone were to hurt your feelings, if they rejected you, if they ghosted you, if they hit it and quit it, if they, what else be happening? If they said something absolutely heinous to you. Now I'm gonna go there. I was like, I'm not gonna go there. No, wait, no. I feel like now I have to go there. No, I'm not gonna go there. No, I'm gonna go there. If they're a Trump supporter, like things that would just ruin it for you and, shatter your hopes and dreams in that moment. Would you really, could you really trust yourself? Do you feel like you could handle it? And handle it without crashing out or without digging your heels deeper into the hole the dating pool has pee in it and I'm never doing this again and this is the worst and I can't do this and I'll never and all that. Can you handle it? And if the answer is no, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just demonstrating my point. Because I know that answer is no for a lot of men. That's why they be acting the way they be acting. But I think a lot of women are like that too. But it just looks different. But I think that a lot of people don't know how to self-regulate. I just felt the need to whisper that because people don't usually take too kindly to being told about themselves. So let's get back into this list. Because that one took the whole episode, that one thing. The next thing on this list is getting really lovingly honest with yourself. Emphasis on lovingly honest, not brutally honest, lovingly honest with yourself about how you've hurt yourself and others and making a commitment to change. And this is the most important part, changing. Not just making a commitment to change, but actually changing because you love yourself so much that even if it takes a long time, you don't care about how long it takes. You know that you love yourself so much that you are going to change for yourself. Like how you'd repair a relationship after your partner or your bestie hurt you. You would tell them, hopefully, that they hurt you, and they would hopefully apologize and accept accountability for it and be like, yo, I'm so sorry I hurt you. I will never do that again. And I'm going to literally show you that I will never do that again. And then they never do it again. Oh, beautiful. You deserve that from others, and you deserve that from yourself. Yes, I'm staring at you with big eyes, eyebrows raised. You deserve that for yourself, from yourself. Okay? And then the last thing is letting yourself be a messy human and still loving yourself. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's going to be perfect to you. You're never going to be perfect. I'm never going to be perfect. I don't want to be perfect. But even if I did want to be perfect, I would never. We're all imperfect, perfectly imperfect. So we're all going to make mistakes. You're all going to make mistakes. You're not perfect. It's okay. If you were perfect, that would be so weird. That would be, ugh. You ever meet someone who's too perfect? They got some ugly secrets. Them perfect people, them perfect seeming people, oh. The stories I could tell. But can't tell. Because of confidentiality. Okay, so. That's what people are missing. Those things, the harder side of self-love. And so when we're out here interacting with each other and you're like, oh my gosh, why did they do that? I thought they loved me. They do. They do love you, usually. If we're talking about someone that, like, this could be friend, family, partner, whatever, they do love you. They love you to the extent that they love themselves. And the thing is, they kind of suck at loving themselves. Therefore, they can only love you as much as they love themselves, because they don't, like, how is he going to have a hard conversation with you if he can't have a hard conversation with himself? How is he going to take accountability for his actions towards you when he can't even internally take accountability for things that he's done? Do you know how many okay, do you know how many times I've heard of men lying? I'm about to get into some examples, or just, I only have space for one example. But when someone lies and you catch them in that lie, or like they hurt you and they try to like gaslight their way out of it, I think sometimes, yes, there are people out there who do that on purpose. But I think more often than not, these people are not doing it on purpose. They're not like, oh, I, uh, she knows now that I did something wrong and I'm going to pretend I didn't. I don't think that's what's going on. I think they literally internally don't think that they did it. I think they internally, whatever hot garbage they're spewing to you, they genuinely believe it. They're not like sitting there like, oh, what lie can I use to come out of this situation? They genuinely feel that way. There was this one time, this is not the story that I've written down, but there was this one time, my kid's dad wanted to call and like apologize. And like, he called, we were like texting, and he was like, can I call you? And I was like, no. Anything you have to say needs to be in writing. And he was like, I just really need to call you, da 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 da. And I was like, fine. I feel like she barked right when I said fine, which is funny, so I'm gonna leave it. And so I was like, fine. And so we got on the phone, and he sounded anxious. Like, his voice was shaking. His breathing was shaky in a way that like you can't fake. And I'm like, this man really like genuinely believes his own lies. Like, he's not lying to me. He's lying to himself and is sharing his incorrect truth. Because he does not love himself enough to see himself clearly. Because to see himself clearly, at least in that moment, for where he is in life or whatever, would probably shatter him. And so instead of seeing himself as a deadbeat dad, which would probably just like, I don't know, instead of seeing himself that way, he has spun an entire scenario, entire lie that he lives and tells himself to not accept the truth that he's a deadbeat dad. And to take it a step further, take it a step deeper, he learned that probably from his mom, but it could have been his dad. But like, from what I know, it was probably his mom coddling him from facing the consequences of his actions as a kid, which she continues to do today. She still continues to coddle him from facing the consequences of his actions as an adult. Um, but he learned that as a kid, right? And so it got passed down. Like, no, no, oh, like let's say this isn't something that actually happened, or at least if it did, I don't know of it. But let's say if as a kid he got really mad at someone and he like pushed them down on the ground, and his mom was there, and she goes, "Oh, well, what happened? What did that kid do to you? You're such a good kid. Like, you would never hurt someone on purpose. What happened? Oh, so he did X, Y, and Z, and that's why you pushed him? Well, if he didn't say da 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 da, then you never would have pushed him. You're not a bad kid," which, he's not. But like, not taking responsibility for his action and saying something like, "Hey, like, I get that so and so hurt your feelings, but pushing him in that moment was not okay." All right. And so you pushed him and you hurt him. You sure did hurt him back. But this is not how we behave. We use our words, or, whatever, right? There was no accountability taking teaching. It was just, it's his fault that you pushed him, right? And so that's how he became as an adult. And so that's, in my opinion anyway, that's like a lack of like a deep self-love. Like, he only knows how to love himself the way that his mom loved him, which was to absolve him of responsibility and accountability, because that's probably how she was raised. And it just goes on and on and on and on, right? But that's not, at least in my opinion, I feel like that's art. This part is getting into arguable territory, but in my opinion, it is not loving towards yourself to absolve yourself of accountability when it is like it's something that you actually do need to be held accountable for. So anyway, that was a bit of a tangent. That was a bit of a story before an actual story that I was going to tell. Do I tell the other story? Of course I'm going to tell the other story, especially because, I don't have anything extra to add here. In the 30 minutes since, actually, it's only been about, like, when did I submit that episode? Yeah, so like in the 40 minutes since I submitted that episode, no one has submitted an ask question for me to answer. So I'm just going to tell my own story, and I'm going to keep doing that until someone submits something, because I don't have social media to be posting like, "What are your questions?" so I can answer them. I don't want to do that. This is the only content that I don't hate creating. And instead of doing what everyone else is doing, I'm just going to do what feels right for me, and hope and pray and trust that it will reach the right people. And you, darling, are the right person, and I'm so glad you're here. And I'm not even going to ask you to share it, because, I mean, if you feel called to, I'm not going to stop you. But like, I just feel like it's going to reach the right people, and I only want it to reach the right people. Anyway, so my story. Telling this story, it might get me in trouble, but I don't care. All right, this one time, my step-grandmother flipped out at me and attacked my character because I uninvited my entire family from my birthday party, because I had to abruptly move, and the place that I originally was going to have the birthday party was attached to where I was living. Like, it was like the clubhouse for where I was living. And so I no longer had that space. And it had a big parking lot, and I have a lot of family. And I also have family with a lot of, what's the word? I may not be using the right term, but like, they have like mobility issues. Like, they need assistive. Why can't I think of the right words? I may not record another episode after this. I think my brain's starting to get fried. Probably because I need to eat. But, they can't walk long distances. basically, is what the issue is. And I was trying to use the term for it, but I could have just explained what the issue was. And so the place that I did move to, if I did choose, wait, how did I write this? If I did still proceed to have the party as planned or with the same people as planned, and have my extended fam come to the new place, they'd have to walk a quarter mile from wherever they parked. That's how bad the parking situation was. And most of them, like I said, have major mobility issues. And so my step grandmother demanded that I apologize to everyone personally at once, because I had offended everyone so deeply, and their feelings were hurt, and they just felt so wronged by me. And you know what I did? I personally called and apologized to every single person. That's her 3 daughters, and 2 of their husbands, and my 3 cousins. I called every single one of them and apologized. Not everyone answered, because it was like 3:30 on a weekday, on like a Monday or Tuesday, and everyone has jobs, myself included. And I apologized to everyone, or I left a message apologizing. And then one of my aunts I was super close with, we talked like 2 to 4 times a week. She took her mother's side, but based on my conversations with her, if my actual grandma, like my dad's biological mom, was the one flipping out, like if the other grandma that wasn't her mother was flipping out, this aunt would have taken my side. I'm like, why is she tripping? Da, 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 da. Like, it's just this, it's just that. Like, she would have taken my side. But for her to say that her mother's behavior was out of line, or that there was no need for me to apologize, would then mean that she, my aunt, would have to also feel that way about the probably countless times her mother treated her that way, the way that she treated me, or worse. But she couldn't, because thinking that way would threaten her very survival, as those 2 live together and depend heavily on each other as 2 disabled Black women. And so despite the harm in, their relationship, there's also dependence, like interdependence. They rely on each other, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's actually beautiful. And so maybe in that moment, the best thing she can do for herself is to choose, and all this stuff happens on a subconscious level usually, is to choose physical, material safety and shallow self-love over deep, full self-love, of setting boundaries and being like, hey, like, don't talk to me like that. Or, hey, when you said this to me, having the tough conversations, being vulnerable and risking getting hurt. If she does that, she could lose, the safety of their interdependence. Sorry about that. My daughter just came in and now the microwave is going. But I'm almost done and I don't want to stop so that I can fully stop and eat, because now that I have mentioned it, I'm hungry. Okay. So instead of doing that, instead of setting boundaries, right? But that whole side of the family has a major issue with boundaries. And like, I can't even get into it that deeply, because the way that I wrote Black families, which is true, but I feel like there are other cultures who also face this issue. But the way that Black families equate loving boundaries to disrespect is like, that's I could talk about that for a whole other 45 minutes. But getting to the point here, because a lot of that was backstory, but the main point here is that my aunt could only love me to the extent that she loved herself. And so she doesn't love herself to the point of standing up to her mom and telling her when she's gone too far. So how would she ever begin to do that for me? And so I encourage you, because this is an act of self-love as well, to when someone, because it feels like when all this first happened, it hurt so much. It hurts so much because it's like it took my partner at the time to tell me, like, I did all that, I completely fawned, and then I came home and okay, I had a quick distraction there, so I'm not 100% sure where I left off. But if someone is acting in a way that is unloving towards you, someone that, you have experienced as loving, or, has been loving towards you, and then they seemingly just like switch up like that, it's really life changing, perspective changing, but also life changing when you adopt this, to recognize. I know for me anyway, I'd seen it a lot online. Like, someone can only love you as much as you love yourself. Oh, wait, no. Actually, I've seen that one too. But no, it's people can only love you to the extent that they love themselves. And it didn't click for me in that way until something, well, no, it clicked before this. But I needed more. Like, I needed more than just, oh, they love me to the, I needed to understand self-love past that superficial influencer friendly level of self-love with, love and light and bubble baths and self-care affirmations. Like, yes, those things are cool or whatever, but it's that deeper level, that next level of how do you love yourself when you realize that your behavior is ruining your life? How do you love yourself when you look back on your decisions and you're like, I messed up? How do you love yourself when you have pissed yourself off? It happens because nobody's perfect. And so the same way that you are going to accidentally hurt the people that you love, you're going to accidentally hurt yourself too. And it didn't click for me until I started doing this kind of work. I don't even know what to call it. I guess self-love, but I don't know, this just deeper getting to know myself and learning how to actually fully, unconditionally love myself. I don't even know if I believe in unconditional love towards other people, because that's a recipe for getting abused. But I definitely have come to believe in unconditional love towards yourself, because you're stuck with you until the day that you die. And so you better figure out a way to love yourself. And the deeper that you learn to love yourself, going with that quote, right, the more readily you'll be able to love others. And I'm not just talking about like potential romantic partners. In this case, what came to mind was, kids. Your kids. You don't want your kids to grow up like my kid's dad. You don't want them to grow up like him, because you're dealing with shallow self-love, vain self-love. Self-centered is masquerading as self-love. You want your kids, if you're like me, you don't have to be like me, but if you're like me, you want your kids to have internalized your deep, nurturing, grounded, rooted love into themselves so deeply that their self-love, I'm doing a weird hand gesture. I don't even know what to describe it, but like that their self-love is just off the charts, amazing, wonderful. I think I'm going to leave it there. And I still have not remembered the other thing. Maybe next week I will remember. Um, Feel free to submit any questions, any asks that you have. If you're listening to this episode and you asked something from the last episode, it'll be answered next episode, most likely, because, like I said, I recorded this literally minutes after posting the other one. So don't think I skipped over it. Don't think I missed it. Time, I was going to say time is a lie, but time isn't a lie. Time is the fourth dimension. You know how people say time doesn't exist? I'm sorry, I'm going off on a tangent, but I feel like I need to say this. I feel like someone needs to hear this. You know how people say that time doesn't exist? Time does exist. But we are 3D beings. And I don't know why I feel like someone needs to hear this. I just really feel like one of you needs to hear this. And it probably is just one. If it's you and you needed to hear this, email me, thesinglemomglowup@gmail.com. I need confirmation. But we're 3D, right? But there aren't only 3 dimensions. But because we are 3-dimensional, like that's all that we perceive. But there's more than 3 dimensions. I don't know how high, I don't know how many dimensions. I think it's 8 that we quote unquote know of, right? But the real answer is probably infinite because everything. Oh gosh, I'm getting so weird. I'm getting so quantum right now. But the point is, time is the 4th dimension. So the same way that we've got like length, width, and depth, right? But if we look at something that's 2-dimensional that only has length and width, then, but we see that, right? We see that from our 3D perspective. With time, like things that are 2D could not see us in the 3D. They have no perception of depth. Depth does not exist in the 2D. Right? Or if it does exist, it governs something that is unchangeable for them. Like they can do nothing about the depth. I hope this is making sense. But in the 3D, right, where we have length, width, and depth, we can manipulate length, width, and depth. But what we cannot manipulate is time. But if you go into the 4D, and this is the point that I was trying to make that is now taking me way too long to make. If you go into the 4D, there is time as that 4th dimension. So you have length, width, and depth, and time. And time in the 4th dimension, the same way that depth, when you step up from 2D to 3D, can be manipulated, whereas it could not be manipulated in the 2D. When you go from 3D to 4D, time that cannot be manipulated in the 3D can be manipulated in the 4D. And the reason that we know that this is a thing is because I don't know how we got here, y'all, but I'm just gonna finish it up, and then I'm not even gonna say bye. I'm just gonna end the recording, and you'll get my little outro spiel about the single mom Discord server. Okay, Single Mom Sanctuary, which is free, by the way. You should definitely join. I haven't been in there because I'm not into social media right now, but I will return. And when I return, I want to see you there. But time can be manipulated in the 4D, and we know this because I think it's the theory of relativity, or I guess now it's a law of relativity. When like observing space, I hope I'm explaining this right. I feel like I should just put a link to one of Neil deGrasse Tyson's videos about it. But if you were, stargazing, and you're just like laying on the ground stargazing, and I come by and you're looking at, a certain stars in a galaxy far, far away. And I come jogging by and I jog over your head and I look at that same galaxy at the same time. We're seeing the same galaxy like days apart because I'm moving and you're not. But we're in the same exact spot. But because I'm moving and you're not, and because time, although we are 3D, time is just another dimension that can be manipulated. Oh gosh, I feel like I've gone too far. I've gone too far. Just look it up, friend. Open your mind. Expand, do some self love by learning something new that's really good for you. All right. See you next time.
If you resonated with anything shared today, join us in the Single Mom Sanctuary Discord server and immerse yourself in our amazing community of single moms. The link is in the description, and make sure to hit that follow button. Subscribe if you're watching me on YouTube so you do not miss future episodes where we'll dive even deeper into navigating single motherhood and glowing up in every area of life. See you in the next episode.